All right, good morning. Well, I want to thank everybody for joining us for this press conference to stop illegal immigration in Pennsylvania. I'm joined by a number of my House colleagues who share in this mission. And what we are going to do is I'm going to outline this package of bills that we have introduced, but we're also going to identify and highlight the problem of illegal immigration right here in Pennsylvania. So it was back in December of the prior year, actually, where I introduced the first package of bills, 6 bills in that package, to address the issues being caused right here in our own communities by the federal government's inaction at our southern border. We have seen that they have done nothing to address that problem, and so over the last 3.5 years, almost 10 million individuals have entered our country illegally. And what that means, though, is that those problems don't just stay at the border, they end up coming into our communities right here in Pennsylvania, and we bear that burden. And so as state legislators, we have an opportunity to actually address that in state legislation. Unfortunately, the House Democrat majority has done nothing to address the problem of illegal immigration here in Pennsylvania. So today, we are calling on them to act again, not only on the legislation that's already been introduced, but this new package of bills. And so I will go through just very briefly a couple of these items. The first 3 pieces of the package are an expansion of E-Verify here in Pennsylvania. So a number of years ago, I was the prime sponsor of legislation which expanded E-Verify for the construction industry. We passed that with bipartisan supermajorities through both the House and the Senate to protect construction jobs for American workers and protect those American wages right here in Pennsylvania. What we have seen, though, is that there are a number of other areas that we think we could expand E-Verify in Pennsylvania to protect our workers. So first and foremost is to expand E-Verify for state grant recipients. This should be a high priority because not only is it protecting those American workers and American wages, but it's also taxpayer money. And so we think that that should be a first and easy priority piece of legislation that should be taken up. The second 2 areas are in the food industry and in the lodging industry. In addition to the construction industry, those are the 3 top industries where illegal immigrants end up working. And so we felt that those are 2 areas we could expand to next. And specifically for the food industry, this would address meat packing, something that was brought to our attention in the House Labor and Industry Committee earlier this session. And we dug into that issue a little further. We found that there has been a 69% increase in child labor violations that were reported by the U.S. Department of Labor over the past 5 years. Many of those individuals are working with very dangerous equipment, including in the meatpacking industry. And so this legislation is based on recommendations from the Meat Institute, the largest trade association representing meat processors, and they published a best practices for the industry, which included workforce age verification and the use of E-Verify for new employees, including third-party contractors. And so again, this would be a way to not only protect American workers, but also protect unauthorized individuals from being placed in vulnerable and dangerous situations in the meatpacking industry. In the hotel and lodging industry, we feel, again, this is another area where we have seen high instances of employment of illegal immigrants. We know that that is an industry that a large amount of legal immigrants work, and this would be a way to protect those individuals as well by ensuring that only those who are lawfully eligible to work here in Pennsylvania are employed in that industry. So that's it on the E-Verify front. Next up, we think that we should expand reporting of healthcare costs for illegal immigrants. Now, this is something that we have heard about for years, the rising cost of uncompensated care for our hospitals. Obviously, many hospitals across the Commonwealth experience individuals being dropped off at their doors who need emergency care. We want those individuals to be taken care of, but at the same time, it would be helpful to understand the cost and the burden that illegal immigrants are placing on our healthcare system. So this would include in that data that is already collected about uncompensated care, the additional reporting that would calculate the uncompensated care for illegal immigrants and the impact that that has on our hospitals. Next up, is no out-of-state driver's license recognition for illegal immigrants. So it is current state law here in Pennsylvania that we cannot offer driver's licenses to individuals that are undocumented or here in the country illegally, and this is something that is not being carried out in other states. So this law would update our code to make sure that we do not recognize other states that want to issue those driver's licenses, because then individuals come here in Pennsylvania and not only are they driving in an unsafe fashion on our road, oftentimes without insurance, but they also could use that driver's license for other things here in Pennsylvania. We want to make sure that we are not recognizing those states that are issuing driver's licenses to illegal individuals here in Pennsylvania. Next up is that we do want to protect. We have seen a rising incident of undocumented and unaccompanied migrant children coming into the Commonwealth. We do want to make sure that we're protecting children because right here in Pennsylvania, we have seen these instances over the last number of years double and in some cases have staggering results where the individuals and the children who are being trafficked are being forced into sex trafficking and labor trafficking. All of these instances are up across the country, and right here in Pennsylvania, there have been documented accounts where individuals are placed with a sponsor, they go to be checked on, and that child is gone. And so what we are suggesting here is that an individual who wants to sponsor an unaccompanied migrant child would do so and have the same background check that anybody who is working with a child in other instances, in other programs, or in employment in other cases, they would have to have the same background check conducted so that if they're going to sponsor a child here in Pennsylvania, we make sure that they have been checked out and vetted to make sure that they aren't going to be exploiting or have a history of exploiting or taking advantage of children. The final thing is that we can crack down on human traffickers. And so a number of weeks ago, I had the opportunity to go down to the southern border in Arizona. And what they told us, the sheriff's office in Cochise County, Arizona, told us that the flow is that money and guns are heading south across the border, and then coming north, it is drugs and human trafficking. And what we see, again, it doesn't stop right there at Arizona's border. It comes into our communities. These individuals are being human trafficked into states and across the country, but right here in Pennsylvania and right here in my home area in the Lehigh Valley, we have seen an uptick in that traffic. And so we want to make sure that anybody who is trafficking an individual is caught, is apprehended, and the fullest extent of the law is thrown at them. And so we want to make sure that those traffickers have a proper offense that we can utilize against them, and so this legislation would do that. Unfortunately, these traffickers have demonstrated a clear and evident disregard for human life, and this would be legislation to significantly increase the penalties against those individuals who are trafficking illegal immigrants into Pennsylvania and into our communities. So that is the package of bills that we have before us here today. Again, what we have seen is that the federal government and their inaction is causing a crisis not only at our southern border, but across our entire country. We are feeling those consequences right here in Pennsylvania, and unfortunately, as state legislators, we only have a number of tools that we can actually use to address these challenges. We have introduced now 2 packages of bills that the Democrat majority is refusing to take up and address the issue right here in Pennsylvania. So we're calling on them in the remaining days of session to take up any of these pieces of legislation to help protect our communities and help protect individuals across the Commonwealth. And with that, I will take any questions if there are any questions about this legislation or the most recent package of bills. Well, hearing none, I will actually be posting all of this legislation in a comprehensive fashion on our website so that individuals across the state can see what we are proposing to do to help not only, again, Pennsylvania, but people all across our Commonwealth and to stop illegal immigration right here in Pennsylvania. Thank you for joining us today.